are back on the 0 Hour. This is Richard RJ Eskow, and while everyone is following what is going on in Washington, D.C., a much more ancient battle continues to be waged, in this case at the site of the Sioux protest to the Dakota Access Pipeline. And when I say much more ancient battle, I mean the battle for the earth against the forces of greed and private acquisition. And joining us now is someone who is part of that struggle there at Standing Rock. Greg Greycloud is a member of the Crow Creek Sioux tribe. He is also part of that encampment at the Great Sioux Nation camp there at the Dakota Access Pipeline. He takes care of the well-being of the horses there as well as their riders. He has been there. He is on his way back there now, and he joins us by phone. Greg, thanks so much for coming on the program.
Hey, my man. Again, thanks for having me on.
Listen, thank you for your good work. And so right now you're driving back. So you're what? You're parked by the side of the road?
Yeah, I parked alongside of the road in a nearby town, kind of 2 hours away from the camp, south of the camp. And I'm standing right now in my horse trailer so I can kind of get out of the wind and try to get better service.
Now, do you have horses in there with you?
I sure do, and they're helping me keep warm. Right now, the wind's coming from the north, and the wind's coming in the trailer a little bit. But I'm standing up amongst the horses here, and the bodies of these horses are much warmer than mine, so I'm catching a little bit of heat right now.
That was going to be my next question: is are they keeping you warm, and you're keeping them safe? So thank you for that. So listen, what's the word from there? I hear. And we hear out here so much about what's going on, but I feel as if the news comes to us garbled, as if we don't get the true story of what you are defending and what you are being confronted with in terms of aggression. So first of all, let's talk about, if you would, the mission as you see it, the mission of the Great Sioux Nation encampment there.
Right now, there's different missions happening. There's missions within the camp and the camp logistics. There's missions within the horses and what their mission is. But I think the overall mission of the opposition of the Dakota Access Pipeline is to keep our people safe in a peaceful way. Still, at the same time, we can oppose a pipeline like we once did before, the KXL pipeline. But the overall mission is to not have this pipeline cross our water illegally near our reservation, because essentially this pipeline was supposed to have gone north of a predominantly white town called Bismarck, North Dakota, and the people of that city said, no, reroute it away from us because it's too dangerous, and they consulted with them properly, and they did. They moved the pipeline, and they said, well, let's go to a bunch of Indians on the Indian reservation because they're not going to care. And so the overall mission is to uphold our voices as citizens of America, as well as citizens of our own sovereign rights and our own sovereign nations, is to reinstill and establish our relationship with America as a sovereign nation, and to create better consultation between our nations and America itself is the overall mission.
So there was what I take away from that is a couple things. One of which is that there was a violation of the rights of the indigenous nations there in terms of not lack of consultation, but also it seems to me as if the property rights of the people in Bismarck and the political clout of the people in Bismarck overrode the rights of the earth and the rights of the indigenous people. It was just assumed that there'd be, though that wasn't even, it sounds to me like that wasn't even taken into consideration when they rerouted this thing.
Yeah, so I mean, the essential rights of us as, or inherent rights of us as Native Americans or Indigenous Americans are supposed to be the supreme law of the land regarding the 1851, 1868 Fort Laramie treaties, as well as other treaties that tribes have all over Turtle Island in America. But those have been since forgotten or dismantled or just illegally trampled over, because that gave us rights as First Nations for America was supposed to ask permission to build cities, to build corporations, and ask permission to First Nations people, Indigenous people first before they go on and do anything else. And they didn't want to ask permission for anything to a bunch of Indians who aren't civilized. I say quote civilized unquote. That we're not like them, or we're not exactly like the colonized folks in America now that we see as civilized human beings. But the fact that we're civilized in our own manner of being wanting to be one with Earth, and then instill a respect and honor for Mother Earth. So our rights as Americans and the Native Americans have been trampled on for many years, and we just want to be consulted with properly is all. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah, you touched on, and again, we're talking with Greg Greycloud, who is a member of the Crow Creek Sioux tribe and part of the Greater Sioux Nation encampment against the Dakota Access Pipeline. And you touched on something that I've been thinking about in terms of this event and this action, which is, and as you know better than I, Greg, white culture can also sometimes, when it's not ignoring the native peoples of this land, it can sentimentalize them, and I want to be careful not to do that. But my sense is also that from what I've heard coming out of the encampment, that a lot of encampment leaders and members take seriously the role of being protectors of the earth. And what are your thoughts on that as part of this activity?
So being protectors of the earth, that regards everything from not littering or not digging holes where you're not supposed to dig holes, and recognizing grounds being sacred, especially if they're ancient burial grounds. Now you look at the corporate America, or generally the white America, they don't want to look at those things because it's not progressive. You're not going anywhere. You're not building more money. You're not earning an income. And those types of things prevent us from being healthy individuals. Now, that doesn't progress myself and my own family and having money 100 years from now. But at the same time, me being who I am as a peaceful person, as a prayerful person, benefits me and my entire family for years to come, not monetarily, but spiritually, and in our minds and in our hearts. And it connects us with one to where we can make better relationships with other people and with people all over the place. And it creates our minds not so much on materialistic needs, but our spiritualistic needs. And I'm dealing with white America right now. Like you said, the laws and things like that they create are meant to go both ways. They can essentially, they're the ones who created it, and they're the ones who can beat those same laws if you try to fight against them. But at the same time, it's a game. It's a game that was played that we also played with the U.S. government during the initial KXL building and during the KXL fight. And we played their game and we won. And it was a logistical, legal fight that we had to fight. And it was a peaceful one as well. We didn't have no violent protests going on. We had all the permits we needed to have, so the corporate America couldn't say anything regarding our fight against the KXL pipeline because we were already there and we're already 2 steps in front of them. Now this fight against the Dakota Access Pipeline, where they see that we had our things together during that fight, now they're trying to nip it in the bud and create those difficulties trying to get the right permits for everything, where they're not being offered the same way they were before. Now it's a much more difficult process to get those things legally as First Nations and Indigenous people in order to legally fight this pipeline. So it's a challenge, but we're still getting it done, and we're still making sure people are trying our hardest to be peaceful and trying our hardest to protect our own people in the camp from being shot with rubber bullets and bean bags and sprayed with mace and hit with percussion grenades and flashbangs and tear gas and all these other things that are coming onto our people. But we're still standing here resilient. We're still standing here strong, saying it's okay. You don't have to hate us. We love you.
Yeah, well, that's a powerful message that everybody needs to hear, and we're not hearing it enough. And by the way, since you mentioned the Keystone XL pipeline, I do want to just briefly let our audience know that Greg Greycloud, who is our guest, was also arrested after the U.S. Senate vote, I believe it was, but you tell me if I'm wrong, Greg, for singing an honor song to the senators who voted against the pipeline. Is that correct?
Yeah, so 2014, November 2014, actually, we're coming up on the exact day. I believe it was on the 11th or 12th. I sang a song in the U.S. Senate, and it was the International Peace Song of My People, saying that we are protectors and defenders of our land. We're crying out to the Creator, the God, our God, as well as to Mother Earth, to help us stand together and protect our Mother Earth and become defenders of our land. I sang that during the initial vote that was passed down, that failed to pass on the U.S. Senate. It was 40, what was it, 49 to 61, I believe, or
yeah, I think
that
it was
they needed
41.
they
maybe?
needed a certain amount of votes, and they lost by one vote, and we were victorious. And I felt compelled to stand up and sing the song of my ancestors that was created by the Bad Hand, the Red Leaf Singers that are located on the Rosewood Reservation. And the song was created for land boundaries and things, and I felt compelled to sing it, and it touched people across the world. And it was, like I said, I'm very humbled to be a part of that and to have done that for our nation.
And the judge threw out the case against you, which so he recognized. Stories like that, Greg, always remind me that the struggles we think are just today's struggles. Well, today we got to fight this. Tomorrow we got to fight that. In a lot of cases, they're really ancient struggles. They're struggles we've been fighting for generations upon generations, and that to me, I think, is always something we need to keep bearing in mind. So getting back to what's going on there at Standing Rock. So they're really throwing a lot of ammunition against you guys, and what is the prospect now? That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, was I want to keep this in the public mind as much as I can, in the public consciousness as much as I can. What are the next steps? What's going to happen?
Well, without giving away too much, I know that a lot of people are being infiltrated by way of social media and phones and things like that, where we have other meetings. And it's not necessarily too secret. We're not trying to create any more enemies with the government or the state or the counties. But we just don't want our plans to be cut short once we share them. But the next steps forward are to continue to oppose this pipeline and try to essentially, get this pipeline restructured, get it reframed, maybe get the pipeline rerouted to a different area and not cross our river, find healthier alternatives, greener alternatives to oil and energy, and pursue wind energy, solar energy, and other energies, such as maybe even hemp would be an idea for the future. But finding other healthier alternatives and pushing forward for America to learn that there's other renewable resources for everything that we see as energy, but there's no renewable resource for water. There's nothing other than water. So it's just to get the general population of America and the world to know that our water is precious, not just to us as Native Americans or American Indians, but to everyone, not just humans. We have humans, we have animals, we have our vegetation, our trees, our Mother Earth. We all need water. We all drink the same water. So it's not just our issue or our fight. We want to push for everybody to learn that it's everyone's fight. If you like drinking water,
right, which I think we're not. We're mostly water, our bodies. So,
right.
Which leads me to my last question, Greg, which is, and really my last thought, but I want to ask for your reflection on it. Which is, I think if we're going to survive on this planet, we have to change our attitude toward the other living things on this planet, and to recognize the commonality of our share. Like you just said, we need the same things in order to survive. Now, your biography that they gave me said, you're one of your roles at the encampment there is to look at the well-being of the horse nation there, and that I've heard that terminology before, and to me it means. You could tell me what it means, but to me it means recognizing that the horses, a sort of equality between us as a nation and the horses as a nation, that we are all nations of living things trying to survive together. Am I getting it at all right?
Yes, I mean, that's totally correct. I think if the general America doesn't want to or can't connect to us as American Indians, indigenous people, they can connect to horses. We have a lot of ranchers and farmers across America who give vegetation, corn, and beef to everybody so we can continue to eat and survive. They themselves utilize the power of horses. And so if they can't or don't want to connect to us as American indigenous people, they can connect to our four-legged relatives, the horses. And oftentimes, and more often than not, that the general population of America respect the horses a lot more than they respect us as indigenous people. And to us, that's fine. That's completely fine because we're related to horses. Us as indigenous people, they are our relatives. And if they respect them, then in our minds, they respect us as well. So we utilize our horses, and they're very influential and key to beating this pipeline, as it was very influential and key to beating the KXL pipeline as well.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for taking care of those horses. Thank you for coming on the program.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming on the program, Greg Graycloud. Please stay safe out there. Give our love and respect to everybody in the encampment, and give our love to those horses too, okay?
Oh, I'm giving it right here to these horses while I stand in between them and all this, the trailer here. So I appreciate you guys having me on the show. I ask everybody out there who's listening to please continue to support, even on social media. We need your prayers, even if you're at home praying. When you go to church on Sunday, on Wednesday, please offer prayers to whatever God you believe in, that our people are with one with you guys as well, and that we overcome and become victorious over this pipeline. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we will be right back after this. I am Richard RJ Eskow, and this is the Zero Hour.